So as the continuity to that, in general standalone case, we used to create new keyword and create objects. And in the evolution of frameworks, right? Frameworks started creating objects for you. And if framework creating the object means, it may add some other benefits also to you along with the object creation. Instead, having a hard coded object with you, frameworks are creating your objects during at runtime, right? Just you will be providing configurations, frameworks are creating objects, and some more features are adding to your classes. Okay, there are many advantages if you can create objects during runtime, right? There are many advantages uh, that they are providing. If you want to know more about runtime object creation and runtime object benefits, see reflection API, okay? Java reflections API we have, right? You can just have some examples of reflection API. Anyway, so in the evaluation of frameworks, servlets came here for controller part. Servlet objects Tomcat used to create, and there are many other benefits also it used to provide to your servlets, life cycles, giving HTTP data to your servlet class, data exchanging from front end to back end. Okay, all that you know things will be achieved by Tomcat. And coming to EJBs will get lot of transaction benefits. Stubs skeletons means a remote RMI kind of concepts also we used to achieve by using service registries and service discovery. We used to register our services into WebLogic BJB containers. Then we used to consume them. Okay, first we used to register, which means like you need to uh, you know book a SIM card. You will be registering it. Once SIM card is activated, you used to consume it. The same way, the CJB's objects used to register, and somewhere we need to look up them and we need to consume it. Okay, so this is how the EJB patterns used to be. Now, when it comes to Spring, whatever classes we write for our complete controller, service, business, DO layers, right? All that classes we used to register into Spring XML file, and we load it into IOC. So then, by following this XML, it will identify all your classes, whatever you have written, and it will create objects to them. Apart from that, there are many other benefits it used to provide. Apart from creating objects, it used to do dependency injection, many things. We will go into that topics later, but we are trying to understanding how I was creating objects. Once I configure all my classes into XML, if I load that into IOC, immediately it will create objects for you, objects of all the classes. Of course, the next question is how each object will communicate. That we will talk. So here the steps we need to follow, right? During coding, first step you need to create classes, whatever number of classes you have. Then second step you need to configure them into XML file. Then you need to load it into IOC. In annotations case, that is different. We are avoiding this XML. In annotations case, we avoid this XML file. Just we will create our classes with some annotations. Then IOC will search and create objects for them. Okay. And to load them into IOC, how many types of IOC containers we have means Bean Factory, application context, web application context. Bean Factory is a very basic container. We call it as core container. Okay. So let's see. Core container is a lazy container, and this application context is a eager container. I'll tell you the difference between that lazy and eager. Okay. So let's see if you have an application here. Okay. If you have an application here, okay, I will name it. The application name is Twiggy. Okay, my application name is Wiki. So here I have code to take orders, right? Order, orders class. Consider you have multiple set of classes here. Orders controller and products controller. When somebody wants to place an order, first he will check what all are products available for breakfast. Then he will place the order and a delivery. Delivery controller will track the delivery. Let's say you have this many classes in Swiggy. Okay. So yesterday night, somewhere around consider 12 p.m. or 1 p.m., I restarted my servers. I have this many classes, and this is if you consider this is implemented in Spring. Okay, if it is implemented in Spring, and if it is using to run these classes, if it is using IOC container, right? Write any number of classes that will be run it into IOC container only. My IOC container is Bean Factory, so I'm running them into my Bean Factory container. So this is lazy container. How it will behave? Last night at 1 p.m. I deployed it. 1 p.m. code deployed in server. Okay, 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. right? 1 a.m. 1 a.m. it is deployed. Nobody requested this application yet. So I woke up early in the morning and I wanted to place a order here. I want to place one order here. So first I'll go to product controller, then I'll pick up the items, then I'll go to the order controller, I'll place the order. Then order controller will call automatically delivery to initiate the delivery. Okay. So if it is a bean factory container they are using, what will happen when I request it? Right, usually it need to respond very quickly, maybe in 3 seconds. The each request and response time hardly if it is going to take 3 seconds or less than 3 seconds. Let's say in 2 seconds itself you are getting response when you search for the product or when you place the orders. Within 2 seconds your order and your delivery of you know a related code is executed. Okay, so if it is a bean factory code and to create objects for your product controller or to create objects for your order controller and delivery controller, when first time when first user request, early in the morning I woke up and I requested for the code. So for me usually it should execute in 2 seconds, right? For me what it will do to create this object, right? Product object or order object, delivery object, if that is taking 10 seconds of time, it will take 10 seconds to me. It will take 10 seconds. For each, if it is taking 10 seconds to place order, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, it will take around 30 seconds to me, half a minute. Half minute time it will take to me to place a order very first time. Because if I am using a bean factory container, during 1 a.m. deployment, right? 1 a.m. developer deployed the code, but it will not create objects during deployment time. Developer deployed the code at 1 a.m., but this container not created objects because until unless this first user request, it will not create any objects. That's why we call it as lazy container. If it is a application context here, right? Instead of bean factory, if it is a application context, but during 1 a.m. when code is deploying into servers, right? As soon as your code is deployed and started the server, right? Immediately it will create all the objects. But that is not the case with Bean Factory. It will wait for the first user request. What about the next user? As a first user, let's say if you are going with Bean Factory only, for Navin, it took 10 seconds. What about others? Somebody came, Akil, he is hungry, then he is the next person who placed the order. For him, already objects are available. Okay, always these all objects are singleton only. Singleton objects only it will create one object only. Singleton means one object for entire life cycle. Singleton objects only. Bean factory or application context will create singletons only, one object only. Okay. So when Akhil requested for it, okay, already for me it took some time, right? 10 seconds for each and created objects. The same objects it will utilize for Akhil. Same objects. Whatever product object, order object, delivery objects already created, right? That objects are in live. So the same objects it will give it to the Akhil. So from the next user onwards, the request may be finish it in 6 seconds itself. From the next user onwards. But for very first user, it will give very bad performance. It will give very bad performance. Maybe you may not see it as a issue. Maybe you may not see it as an issue. It's okay. For first user, let it take 30 seconds. From the next user onwards, let it be not only Akil, 1 lakh other users. If they request it also, same time it will take. For another 1 lakh or 1 crore users, it is going to say take same time. You may not see it as a problem. But infrastructure wise, when your objects are creating, right, these objects may have other classes dependencies also, or other database connection dependencies, or other application dependencies we might have here, or Kafka dependencies, any other softwares if you are using. So during deployment time itself, if all objects are creating along with your database connections, Kafka connections, everything, at least whoever is deploying this code, he can ensure that your code is working properly. Okay, which means if there are any errors during deployment time, he can observe that errors. Deployment might get failure because of errors, right? So he can able to go and check and he can fix the problems. Instead he doing that, if we keep that application into live without creating objects, and if we wait for the first user request, first user will wait, it's okay. But first user, if he face any errors, the same errors will continue for all the users. Then what is the use of deploying the code here? Though you verified it in testing environment and your local environments which was working fine, may not work in production. Not sure. There are many, differences. Production environment. Always we used to say maintain the same environment. Though you maintain the same environment, also sometimes versioning issues, sometimes other issues you will get like indexing issues, or small, configuration changes would be there here and there, right? For production and the normal local and testing environments, something may brought the issue. Something may create the issue for your application. So who will realize that, who will see that errors, your end users will see the errors. So end user, if you see the error, he will not come back to this application again. He will see what is the better alternative. So he will go to that application, then he will start placing orders. Okay. So during deployment time only, it's a good idea to create all the objects. During deployment time only, if you create objects, we call it as eager loading. Instead of that, for first user request, if you create objects, we call it as lazy loading. Bean factory is a lazy container. It will do lazy loading only. In this place, if I use application context, during your server startup only, all these objects will be created. Okay, that is the difference. Are you guys following me? Getting right what I'm trying to convey here? Yeah. So see that I'll show you that through the code so that you can observe. Always I recommend go with of course we are using application context only. But if somebody asks you in interviews which is good, lazy loading or eager loading, many people still I used to see say lazy loading because they don't know the problems uh, really in production environment. But in case if you have thousands of classes here, during deployment time, if you ignore how that objects are creating and that stuff, if you leave during deployment time, if you wait for the first user request, in case if there are any compilation issues, usually we don't have, but during object creation, if there are any connection related issues, configuration related issues, developer will see that all that, not developer, the end user will see all that issues. Okay. And until unless he reporting it from the business angle, we may not see that problems of our system. Okay. So during deployment time itself, if all these objects are creating, whoever is deploying the code, they will see the complete log trace and even the deployment tools, right? In the tools, if you can configure, if there are any errors, you know the build may fail. So when the build fails, your server is not yet ready. So as a developer can carefully, he can go and see what happened to it, and he can clearly understand from the logs, okay, some connection issues, some configuration issues are there, I need to fix them before deploying it, so that he will fix the issues and deploy it. Even I saw so many such issues. The code used to work it in local environment, test environment, pre-prod environments. When we move it to prod, we used to get some new errors. Okay. What kind of errors? Like database indexing is there in local environment. We used to apply indexes on tables, and we used to apply same indexes on pre-prod. Usually we don't have production access. We thought that, okay, maybe we forget and we used to deploy it. When we deploy the code, when we try to run the use case, right, it used to give us errors like that is not having indexes, and lot of performance gaps also we used to see. Then we used to realize, okay, there are some configurations that still I forgot to do it in the production environment. When you will realize all these, if you create all your objects during the deployment time only, and after deployment in production also, right, one round of checking we need to do as a tester. If you have or product owner, if he is available, client if he is available, you need to ask client, can you please check one round, all the use cases are working or not. If everything is working, then only you need to you know uh, allow that application for actual access. Okay. So finally, what I want to conclude here, eager loading is good. Instead, you waiting the user uh, to create objects at very first time request, you better create them during deployment time only. Let's see from our old example, right? So yeah, this is our, I created multiple classes, car as a controller, right? This was our first example, right? So car is my controller, and engine I have here. This is my service. Fuel is my DAO. In general, in core Java, we used to create objects directly using new keyword, and we call that methods. We create car object and car class methods. We can call engine object. We can create engine methods. Fuel object we can create, and fuel methods we can call. But this objects creation headache, we wanted to leave it to frameworks. So frameworks will take that responsibility. Just what you need to do, just you need to configure your classes to achieve the same, right? Just you need to configure these classes in Spring XML file. So once you configure it in Spring XML file this way, and when you load this XML file, right, when you load this XML file, this is core Java client. Where is my IOC client? Here. Yeah. So when I load it into container, my bean factory is a lazy loading container. Okay, what it will do, until unless the user request. So if I request for car, then only it will create object. If I request for engine, then only it will create object. If I request for fuel, then only it will create object. So you all know the debug mode, right? I'm putting this code into debug mode. Okay, I'll run it in debug mode. So once code execution comes here, it will stop and wait for our next to proceed, right? Now the debug pointer came here. Okay, so I intentionally stopped the code here to see. So if I execute this line, get bean method, then you can see car object is created. So at this line, when I call factory.getBean, then it is creating object. Okay, cool. So when I call c.carName, then it is executing carName method. Then it is going to next step. Line number 23, I'm getting engine object. Now engine object created. Now engine CC printed. So fuel object is created. Then finally fuel name. So fuel name is printed. So if you observe here, until unless who called it, assume that user is calling. Navin called it. Navin called for the car, Navin called for the engine. Consider it is like a product, this is like a order, this is like a delivery. Okay. So when I request, it is creating object. Okay. You did the request. Okay. You did this request. Navin did this request. Let's let other person also let other person also request here. Something. Akhil also wants car object. So let's put different reference name. Akhil also requesting for one more object. Okay, Akhil also requesting for it. Once again, I'll run it in debug mode. Here also I'll put debug points. For Akhil also, he is calling again car, engine and fuel, right? So let me run it in debug mode again. I'm using lazy container here, okay? So you know lazy container will create object, two things, right? Bean factory is a lazy container. First thing, create object for first user request. Just a minute, guys. And that object is singleton. Whatever object it is created, it is singleton. Just a minute, guys. Understand? Hmm. Yeah. So IOC will create, Bean Factory will create object for first user request only. From the next user request onward, same object is sufficient because it is creating singleton object. Okay. Now first user Navin requesting for car object. Okay, car object created and car name method printed. Engine object created, engine name CC printed. Fuel object created and fuel name printed. Now I am deleting this log, okay? Or let it be there. Okay, this line also executed. So my uh, execution is finished. Now for Akhil, he requested for car object. So again he is asking bean factory, give me get bean of car. So he is asking for the car object again. So let me execute this statement. See, this statement executed line number 34 and 35 also. When I execute line number 34 and 35, this statement should be executed. Car object and RDQ7. But what is happening here? Car object is not created, but it is executing your method. Which means here brand new object it is not creating. Already object created when Navin executed, right? The same object given to him here as well. Again, brand new object not created. Again engine, I am executing line number 37. So line number 37 executed, but engine object is not created. It is given on engine object to you. It is given engine object to you. See, object is ready, but it is not created any new object for you. Same object given to you when you try to execute engine CC, right? Only you can able to see engine CC here. Same thing with the fuel also. See, no fuel object created again. Same fuel object which is created for Navin given here. So finally, fuel method is executed. So only for the first user request only it created object. If you guys want to see, let me run it again one more time. Okay, na? Try to observe here. First time only it is creating object. Again and again, if you call that B in n number of times also, one object. So one car object. See, this car object ID is car at the rate 222 DC. Anyway, that will be available. Engine created for you, fuel created, fuel method is executed. Fine. Now when I request for this car C1, okay, execute this line. Okay. Now see this car C1 reference, controller dot car 22545 DC. Okay, 222 545 DC. So see this reference name, C reference also same. Car at the rate 222 545 DC. Same reference. Whatever already created in JVM, right? The same object only it is referring you as well. You call this getBean method 1000 times. Object is one object only. So coming to the memory, if you have 1000 classes, in case of singleton, throughout application it will maintain only three objects. So during first user request only it will create, but how many objects? As you have product controller, order controller, delivery controller, only three objects. Only you will be having three objects into your JVM until you shut down your application. Your server JVM will hold only these three objects. Keep memory. So if you consume less memory, it will give good performance. Always remember, if you consume less memory into your heap or RAM, heap again, which means your RAM memory only. If you consume less memory, your application will give good performance. If it is a dedicated server and you deployed your code there, though you have three classes only, at a time 1 lakh users if request, let me finish. 1 lakh users at a time if they request, for 1 lakh users it will create 1 lakh into 3 objects, right? 3 lakh objects it will create here. Instead of 3 lakhs objects, though for 1 lakh users request, if it is created only 3 objects, lot of enough memory it will be having to process your request. Okay? Yes, go ahead. Same. Both are same. Hmm. 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 అర్థం కాలేదు అంటే వాట్ యు వాంట్. Correct. Hmm. 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 Okay. Yeah. See, um, while placing product controller execution is finished. Maybe one more trigger you may hit. If you want to call, you can call it. There are no such restrictions, but we never do that directly. Okay. So his question is, can we call from one controller to another controller? Let's say if they are small microservices, maybe you can place REST call from one product controller to order controller to delivery controller. but we don't do that. Okay, if see, controller main responsibility here is take data from front end. Okay, so if you need really help of order, create it as a service. Why again you need a controller? Controller responsibility is entirely different, right? Getting? Okay. Yeah, yeah, we can do that. But what is the use? Why you need a controller? Controller is a precious object. Why you need to use that object to make it as a helper? In case if you have really that requirement, you can make a call. No issues in that. Yeah. No, no. We never call service layer to controller. Controller will call service. Service will call DAO. Okay. The calling flow is this. You know, this is what, right? Hmm. Ah. Any method from front end you make it. Yes. From front end UI you placing a request get or post or put. So see the your request will go to where controller. First person who will respond for any UI request is controller. So then this controller will take help of service. Controller responsibility. We talked about MVC. Each class is having different set of responsibilities. Okay. So like a home, father is having one kind of responsibility, mother will take care of other responsibilities, children will do different responsibilities. Similar way, right? To run this application, if you follow clear MVC architecture, you will be having different layers to logically separate your code. Database code we only put here, business code we only put here, only controller logic we put here. So in future, if there are any changes to only database related, we go and disturb only one class. It will not disturb other layers, business code and controller related logic. So that's where we are using MVC architecture to make clear logic separation, to achieve the runtime polymorphism, to achieve the clear code maintenance, clear code. This is how always the flow goes. And this objects you may require here. DO object you need it in service. Service object you may need it in controller to make this flow happens. Okay, we are deviating from this topic actually. Um, Once again, I'll ask you your question clearly and explain to you. Okay. So the basically here the main focus is how this is creating objects. Okay. Bean factory, from our observation, what we understand, it is creating only one object for each class. For car class, one object. For engine class, one object. For fuel class, one object only. Same object it is giving back again. If other users also ask, take it. I have already object is ready for Navin created it. Take the same object. The same object it will be given to us. So when you finally realize this object references engine 515 8B 42F. Here 515 8B 42F. Same engine object. Fuel fuel 595 B 007 same 007. Same objects. Just it will keep it into its singleton scope and it will give it to you. Though you call 100 times also. So now we are doing simple standalone applications. So while it reaching this server execution, I mean your code execution will finish and it will destroy your objects. But in case of MVC applications, once these objects are created, until unless you uh, uh, undeploy your application, undeploy or redeploy, or when you stop your servers, until unless you stop your servers, these objects will be in the JVM heap memory. Nobody will disturb them. And intentionally, you should not nullify them. If you do that, your object is gone. Okay, so you should be careful. You should not nullify any object. Yeah. Any questions? If you want to really see them, whether really they are equal or not, you can compare them also. Sys out C equal to C1. Check. Same way. Is E equal to E1 and E is F1. F is equal to F1 real object. So if all these objects are same, you will be seeing finally true. This is how we compare objects, right? Whether both objects are same or not. Assignment. True, true, true. C1 is equal to C equal to C1. Correct. E equal to E1 is correct. F equal to F1 also correct. So it is saying all your objects are same. But it is lazy one until unless Navin request here, it is not creating any object. Now see the same example with your application context. Client with AP application context. I'll just remove this line and this line code. Instead, I use bean factory. I will use application context here. Application context AP equal to new class path XML application context. Here I need to pass this XML path. That's it. So this first two lines not required. Now I am using a different container. Application context. Okay. So in place of bean factory, now I am using application context. Let me put the debug points here. Run it in debug mode. See, before reaching this line, before Navin requesting car object or engine object, or before user request itself, after your code execution of line number 13, right? After line number 13 itself, car object, engine object, fuel object is created. It is not waiting for any user. Your objects are preparing during loading time only. Your XML is loaded, it readed all your classes and created objects. Now, if I request here, see line number 16, no special output here. Means no new object, already object is there. The same object it given to you. Whatever object already it created now, that same object given to you. Same thing. It will do with just it is executing methods for you. RDQ7 1500cc engine. Now Akil also requesting for Akil. Same thing. RDQ7 1500cc engine petrol. Just it is executing your methods. Objects are already there. So as a first user, even this fellow also will not wait for much time because already your objects are ready during deployment time only ready. Imagine that this request are you are placing from web browser. As for our comfort, we hard coded in the main method, but in real time you can realize it. Okay, so this code will be executed during deployment time only. That is how we configure it. As of now, it is main method, right? But assume it. This code will be executed during your server starting only. That is how we link it up. Okay, and this code like get bean or using beans, that stuff will be executed for users only. So before users coming into the picture itself, your objects will be ready. If you go with the application context, or if you go with web application context also. Okay, these are eager containers. The only lazy one is bean factory. Until unless the first user request, it will not create any objects. Oh, so this is eager one. These two are eager only. In real time, we use web application context only. Basically to deploy into servers, right? This class will help you. Now we hard coded this one, but in when you deploy into server, this container will be executed. That is how that code is implemented. Nothing to worry, I'll show you how they did that. Okay, so your IOC container is creating object now instantly while you are loading itself, not instantly, while doing loading itself. So that object is given to everybody. In a simple example, if you go to restaurant and if you ask for biryani, if that hotel is something like a bean factory hotel, if you go to hotel, you are very hungry, you reach to hotel by 1:30 p.m. or 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and you requested for biryani, you are the first customer reached to the hotel. So if it is a bean factory, what it will say, it will serve you, but it will make you wait to prepare the biryani. If it is going to take another 1 hour, bean factory will make you wait for the next 1 hour, because biryani is not there, not ready. As you are the first customer, then they will start preparation. Maybe from the next customer onwards, they will serve the same biryani. Maybe they will cook for the next 100 people or 200 people. Okay, so you need to wait. Of course, we will not wait if there is long waiting. But if it is a application context, when you visit the hotel, right? You before visiting hotel itself, they prepare everything as per their menu and they will make it readily available. When you request for biryani, in a minute they will serve it to you. Okay, same thing with your applications also. Applications should not make users wait. You guy, you man, wait. I'm creating object for you freshly. I'll give you fresh object. No, user don't care. So you just create objects very ahead before during deployment only. So as a customer, he will not see any latency. He will not see any gap. He will not see any waiting time. Immediately that objects will be given to him, even though he is a first user or a last user. Okay, always recommend to use to create objects during deployment time only. And one more benefit is not only from the user point of view, during deployment, if there are any glitches in your application, right, that you will be able to see them. Okay, I always recommend this. Reference to libraries, I added all that Spring 3 libraries. You can add all of them. Download that Spring 3 all the jars. Yeah, these all are the build path reference libraries. Let me show you. The same libraries will come here. Yeah. Not everything is required. Just I added, as I don't have patience to add them. I added everything. But if you want to specifically add only IOC jar files, right? Just 4 or 5 jar files are enough. Let me remove them. Okay, let me remove everything and in yeah automatically. But we need to mention which jar files we need. Okay. So core context, I'm adding beans, ASM, expression, um, and the commons logging. This is mandatory one. Okay. So I just added this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jar files. Okay. Let's let's run this code. Okay. I will run it. Oh, there is error. Okay. Lombok jar file I removed. So No, I just removed it now. What happened? Everything is there. What happened to it? I removed all the jar files from the class path. JRE. No, no, JRE usually it used to be there. I don't know why it is deleted. It will not delete, but somehow we selected all to delete it. Deleted it. Cool. Run it. Ah. So these jar files are enough. Yeah, but it will take time. Shall we do that later? Yeah. Just do the same thing with Maven project. Create a Maven project here. Okay. Create a Maven project. Let's name it something. Okay. Put your group ID, form dot something RBU, artifact ID, and just mention group ID, artifact ID. Same thing also should be fine. Finishing it. Finish it. And here what you can do, go to form file in this dependencies section, right? You can add them here. Okay. So let me show you. Spring IOC Maven dependencies. Let's Google it. We'll be getting Maven repository here. Go there, choose the version. See, up to Spring 5, 6 versions we have. Just click on any version which you want, copy this and put it here. So that what it will do, it will download this library for you. This library will be downloaded and that will make it available into Maven dependencies. See, commons logging and core jar file came here automatically. You see it, right? And I add this different. Uh, no, you see, you need everything. You need to go and add them. Only core I added. What about the J2EE library application context one? That also we need to add, right? Spring context Maven dependency. Then you need to add this context dependencies. Which version I added here? So this version compatibilities we need to maintain 2.5.4. So 2.5.4 is yeah. You can use any version. I just picked one. You can remove version here and put globally. You need to mention global. No, you need to put globally here. Spring version. Let's see. No, at least to globally you need to mention the version. ఇక్కడ పెట్టాలి. Same like this, right? You need to mention your versions here. Spring framework org.spring framework and version you need to mention here. So common version it will use. ఇప్పుడు చూడండి. You got here, if you look here, Spring context, Spring beans, AOP aliens, different set of jar files you got here. Okay, na? So same example, copying all these packages and Say client both not working. So get bean method in that version. Spring 3 version it is allowed, but in 2.5 version with the class it is not allowed. No, you can mention that is what I'm saying. You can specify global version and that will use automatically the global version reference. Yeah, it is running as usual. Yeah, why we need Maven? Yeah, map in real time to maintain all the libraries and all. We never download directly and put it here. We usually, if it is a any in real time, usually we create Maven project, and here we add all the dependencies, and we will ensure that these dependencies will be there in our artifactory. Local artifactory used to be there. Okay, for every organization, and we used to ensure that these libraries are there in our local artifactory, not in the Maven global repository. Okay, because many jar files you may available here. Company may not allow you to use all that library, so they will maintain private artifactory. You need to go to your artifactories. That is something like your Maven repository only. There, if this library is available, then you can utilize it. The benefit is you need not to download that libraries. Just Maven will download them and it will add them into your class path. So during you packaging it, all that libraries will be packaged. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not only that, it will build by using that library. The same library it will use for the building while doing you packaging it, right? Once after your local coding, what you do, you will be deploying in the servers, right? So there you need to package your code as a jar or var, right? So while doing that jar or var, it will include all these libraries, whichever you used in the Maven. It will add them into your library section for runtime also, not only for compile time. Again, for your runtime, during Maven build, it will package them in this target, right? It will generate for you a var or jar, including your code and these libraries as well. It is a simple bit. What is that? Not it uploaded. I'll upload it. Okay. Which one? The code you are asking? Recording, yeah. I shared the Git URL, right? The blog URL. In that blog, you can see the videos. Once I update, I'll inform. Yeah, I'll inform. No, morning 7 a.m. sessions not. I mean, our sessions not yet uploaded. Today I will do that. Okay. Uh, the person is busy, so I'm not getting his time. So he will do it today. Huh? Yeah. So because I need to create one brand new layout, then I have to keep upload them into somewhere, and I need to embed it, get the embedded. Yeah. So, but I'll make sure to finish it as soon as possible. Yeah.